It is 1 a.m. in New York, 6 in Abuja, and 2 on a Tuesday afternoon here in Seoul. I'm Moon Geunhye. Here are the top stories making headlines at this hour. The Korean government unveils measures to tackle the soaring youth unemployment problem with an eye on creating 500,000 jobs by 2017. No suspect can investigate its own crime is South Korea's answer to North Korea's proposal to jointly look into Seoul's conclusion that Pyongyang sent spy drones to the south. And it has been made official. U.S. President Barack Obama will be in Seoul on April 25th for 2 days on a week-long Asian tour that will also take him to Japan, Malaysia, and the Philippines. We'll have those stories and more, but let us begin this Tuesday afternoon with the Korean government's efforts to provide more jobs for the nation's young job seekers. Now, the nation's overall labor market conditions have been improving steadily, but the pace of job creation for the nation's young people remains sluggish. To pump some life into the job market, the government wants to strengthen the nation's vocational training scheme. Our Geunhye starts us off.
Promoting high-quality job training for young people. That's the core of measures laid out by the Korean government on Tuesday to tackle the nation's slumping youth employment rate. The government aims to develop an apprenticeship program like that of Germany or Switzerland, where students receive training from companies for 3 or 4 days a week while taking classes at school for 1 or 2 days. It will start the plan next year at 3 case schools. The government also plans to provide tax breaks to companies participating in the apprenticeship programs. The set of measures come as the nation's youth employment rate stood at 39.7% last year, falling below 40% for the first time ever. This is also far below the OECD average of 50%. The problem is the nation's small and medium-sized businesses are also struggling with a labor shortage. With the nation's high college entrance rate, most young people want to work for large companies like Samsung and Hyundai or look for stable workplaces like state-owned enterprises. Experts say that fostering more hidden champions or strong small and medium-sized companies is critical to create quality jobs that all young people want to work for. Through these measures, the government expects to create 500,000 jobs by 2017. Progress will be reviewed during a weekly economy-related ministers' meeting. 황지혜, ARIRANG News.
The top 20 conglomerates in Korea expanded their hiring of contract workers last year. The business reports of 20 companies with the highest profits show that at the end of last year, around 12,600 people were working on contract, which is a 15% jump from previous year. While the rate of increase was the biggest at the 3 Hyundai Motor Group companies. Kia Motors contract employees grew from 23 in 2012 to 120 last year. Hyundai Kia attributed the increase to vacancies on assembly lines and rehiring of retired employees. Meanwhile, the heads of Korea's 10 largest commercial banks have been hauled before the nation's financial regulator. The Financial Supervisory Service wants answers for the recent series of high-profile scandals and disastrous data leaks. It's also demanding measures be put in place to stop anything similar happening again. Kim Ji-yeon reports.
Korea's financial watchdog has ordered commercial banks operating in the nation to draw up fundamental countermeasures to deal with corruption and the spate of data leaks that have rocked the banking sector in recent months. The Financial Supervisory Service says the presidents of the banks will be held personally responsible if they don't get a handle on the moral or data breaches. That was the message delivered during a meeting Tuesday morning with the chiefs of the country's 10 largest commercial banks present. The regulator called on the bank heads to modernize their work practices and improve employee ethics by implementing surveillance measures. They include forcing employees to take short leaves of absence so that their computers and files can be examined for any signs of mistakes or wrongdoing. The regulator also called for the rotation of employees to different posts to prevent corruption. The FSS says it will take a closer look at banks that show early signs of problems and conduct an impromptu inspection to prevent financial catastrophe. The FSS has already conducted these types of inspections on 2 commercial banks, the Korea Exchange and Daegu Bank, after detecting problems concerning dormant deposits. FSS Governor Choi Soo-yeon had earlier blamed the recent string of data leak cases on lax management, saying bank chiefs that failed to properly monitor their employees would be punished. Choi also said that the problem is not limited to just commercial banks, but also to other financial entities, from credit card and insurance companies to savings banks. 3 of the nation's largest credit card firms were found to be responsible for a personal data breach in January of tens of millions of their cardholders, the largest leak in the country's history. Kim-jeon, ARIRANG News.
We now move on to North Korea's bizarre offer to help Seoul investigate the suspected North Korean drones that recently crashed into South Korean territory. Pyongyang denies having anything to do with the 3 unmanned aerial aircraft, but South Korea says it would be absurd to give the prime and only real suspect a role within the investigation. Our foreign affairs correspondent Hwang Sung-hee reports.
South Korea has rejected North Korea's demand to conduct a joint investigation into the drones that crashed on South Korean soil late last month. An official at South Korea's presidential office said Tuesday that there could never be a case where the prime suspect was allowed to investigate evidence into his own crime. He added the South is conducting a thorough and scientific investigation to collect more evidence to prove North Korea sent the drones. Seoul says it was spied on by the 3 drones, one of which flew over the presidential office. North Korea denied responsibility Monday, accusing the South of fabricating the latest case. The North's powerful National Defense Commission then proposed to jointly investigate all cases that Seoul blames Pyongyang for, including the Cheonan incident, the 2010 torpedo attack on a South Korean warship that killed 46 South Korean sailors. South Korea has held the North responsible following an international probe, but the North denies its involvement. The commission asked South Korea's top presidential security advisor, Kim Jang-soo, to lead the South Korean team in the joint investigation. South Korea's defense ministry released an interim report on its investigation last Friday, presenting additional evidence like the drone's engine capacities, fuel tank sizes, flight hours, and designs that further point to Pyongyang as the perpetrator. The first suspected North Korean drone was discovered on March 24th in Paju, north of Seoul and close to the inter-Korean border. The second a week later near a maritime border between the 2 Koreas, and the third on Sunday about 300 kilometers east of Seoul. Hwang Sung-hee, ARIRANG News.
And now shifting our focus onto the ongoing diplomatic efforts to resume the stalled 6-party talks aimed at ending North Korea's nuclear weapons program. China's top nuclear envoy is now in New York City to meet with a U.S. point man on North Korea, following his meetings last week with Seoul and Pyongyang's top nuclear officials. Our UDN has more.
The top nuclear envoys of China and the United States met for over 3 hours on Monday for the first of their 3 scheduled meetings. While the two did not answer any questions following the meeting, diplomatic sources in New York say the two discussed ways to stop Pyongyang from carrying out additional nuclear tests. Ever since North Korea threatened last month to carry out a new form of nuclear test, tensions have been running high in Northeast Asia. Chinese nuclear envoy Wei and his U.S. counterpart Glenn Davies are to meet again in New York on Tuesday and again in Washington on Thursday, during which Wu is expected to debrief Davies about his visit to the North Korean capital last month. Based on Pyongyang's stance, they are to discuss ways to resume the 6-party talks on denuclearizing North Korea. The 6-way talks, which involve the 2 Koreas, the United States, China, Japan, and Russia, have been stalled since 2008. The bilateral meeting between China and the U.S. is the latest in a flurry of diplomatic activities in recent days. Prior to his visit to New York, Woo met with his South Korean counterpart to discuss similar issues. There, diplomatic sources in Beijing say he requested South Korea refrain from holding joint military drills with the United States, saying the drills are a stumbling block towards resuming the six-party talks. South Korean envoy Hwang Jung-guk reportedly said that such a move would not be considered, as the exercises are purely defensive in nature. Yurian, ARIRANG News.
Now, if and when the six-party talks on North Korea's nuclear program resume, the head of a United Nations investigation team wants discussions to include the North Korean human rights issue. Michael Kirby, chief of the Commission of Inquiry, says the atrocities being carried out by the North Korean regime should be broached in every meeting with the communist state. Kirby will hold a closed-door meeting Thursday with the UN committee dedicated to addressing the abuses in the north. His commission released a report in February that blamed the North Korean leaders for widespread and systematic violations of human rights there. It's now official. U.S. President Barack Obama will visit Korea on April 25th and 26th. The presidential office in Seoul says Presidents Park and Obama are expected to discuss ways to develop their strategic alliance, as well as how to cooperate more closely on North Korea's nuclear issue. South Korean media is also reporting that the U.S. president will likely arrive in Seoul along with a set of Korea's 9 lost royal seals from the late 19th century. The artifacts, considered national treasures, are thought to have been looted by U.S. troops during the Korean War. Now, Obama's upcoming Asia tour, which also includes stops in Japan, the Philippines, and Malaysia, has garnered a lot of attention as it comes amid strained ties between Seoul and Tokyo over historical differences. Now, meanwhile, North Korea is celebrating one of its biggest holidays on this Tuesday, marking the birth of its founding father, Kim Il-sung, 102 years ago. His grandson and current leader Kim Jong-un, along with senior officials, have paid their respects. But will the leadership launch a provocation this week as they have in years past? Kim Min-ji reports.
North Korea on Tuesday celebrated the 102nd birth anniversary of founding father Kim Il-sung. Also known as the Day of the Sun, the late leader's birthday is one of the most important holidays in the communist state. Like in previous years, the country held various festivals and issued postage stamps in celebration. The military also paid respects to the former leader and swore loyalty to current leader Kim Jong-un.
최고사령관 김정은 동지의 선진적 명령들을 충직하게 받들자.
The young Kim paid his respects at the Kumsusan Palace of the Sun, where the bodies of Kim Il-sung and late leader Kim Jong-il lie in state. He was accompanied by senior officials, including Geunhye, the top political officer in the North Korean People's Army, and Chang Jong-nam, the Minister of the People's Armed Forces. The North usually uses the occasion to launch missiles or other provocations to demonstrate its strength for the purposes of regime consolidation. But analysts don't expect a repeat this year, as a provocative act could divert attention from the Day of the Sun and could tarnish the nation's dignity should it fail.
It doesn't seem like the North is planning anything special. The degrees of the festivities are also believed to be similar to previous years.
However, South Korea and the international community are watching closely for any signs of a provocation. Many experts think one will come ahead of U.S. President Barack Obama's visit to Seoul and Tokyo at the end of this month. Kim Min-ji, ARIRANG News.
All of the day's important events close to home and around the world. Join Moon Geunhye live from Seoul.
Mobile shopping market for the dual use of the Korean name East Sea and the Japanese name Sea of Japan in school textbooks in the state of Virginia. President Park Geun-hye has apologized to the nation for the state intelligence agency's fabrication of evidence in a North Korean spy scandal. At a cabinet meeting Tuesday, the president also expressed regret that the National Intelligence Service had loopholes in its management system that allowed this to happen. Now, calling on the spy agency to turn over a new leaf, President Park then said if the NIS loses the public's trust once again, she'll make sure those responsible pay the price. On Monday, prosecutors charged 2 additional intelligence agents for fabricating the border-crossing documents of a former Seoul City employee accused of spying for North Korea. NIS Chief Nam Jae-jun also apologized earlier this morning, promising all-out reforms to root out corrupt practices within the agency. Moving on to the crisis in Ukraine, efforts seem to be focused on finding a diplomatic solution to the fast-moving crisis in Ukraine, but that hasn't stopped tensions from ramping up. Moscow isn't budging while those supporting Russia have occupied more buildings in eastern Ukraine. Here's Connie Lee with more.
The unrest continues in eastern Ukraine. The deadline for pro-Russian protesters to leave Ukraine came and went, with no withdrawal. Instead, the protesters took control of yet another government building on Monday, this time a police station in Horlivka.
If they don't give us a chance to hold a referendum, we'll force them to give us a referendum, because it is the utmost form of democracy. That's it.
At least 10 cities or towns in eastern Ukraine are occupied, prompting the EU and the US to threaten greater sanctions, including trade sanctions on Russia over its actions. The White House said it had urged Russian President Vladimir Putin to tell his pro-Moscow protesters to leave the occupied buildings in eastern Ukraine. Putin denies any interference in the region, but the West isn't buying it.
There can't really be any real doubt that this is something that has been planned and brought about by Russia. The forces involved are well-armed, well-trained, well-equipped, well-coordinated.
As fears of an all-out civil war increase in Kiev, leaders from the EU, US, Russia, and Ukraine were set to hold talks in Geneva on Thursday in hopes to finding a diplomatic solution. Connie Lee, ARIRANG News.
Now on to other news. A bus bomb wreaked havoc at a bus station just outside of the Nigerian capital of Abuja on Monday, killing at least 71 people and injuring more than 130 others. The attack happened just before 7 a.m. local time as people were preparing for their morning commute. No group has come out to claim responsibility for the explosion, but Nigerian President Goodluck Jonathan says it bears the hallmarks of a Boko Haram attack. The strike marks the single largest offense in and near the capital city since 2009, a direct challenge to the government that appeared to have contained the militant Islamic group to northern Nigeria. Now, on a much different note, Korea's badminton team will be at full strength when it competes in the Asian Games in Incheon this coming fall. The Badminton Korea Association says players Yong-dae and Ki-jung, suspended earlier this year for violating anti-doping rules, have been reinstated by the sport's global body. Now, both were slapped with one-year suspensions in January. The Korean Association said there was a miscommunication and neither athlete knowingly broke the rules. The Asian Games in Incheon opens on September 19th. And now it's time to take a look at the arts and culture scene of Korea. And for that, we are joined live in the studio by our Yoon-hee. Good afternoon to Yoon-hee.
Good afternoon.
So what do you have for us today?
So the National Dance Company of Korea has recently cast a world-renowned choreographer from Finland in a very one-of-a-kind, unique piece.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, the National Dance Company was founded in traditional Korean dance. Am I not correct?
Exactly. So they're known for their more traditional style type Korean dances, but in this case, they did collaborate with this choreographer, and it is quite unique. So let's take a look.
It starts out small, with just one lone dancer, then grows to 3. Then a few more dancers are sucked in, and a few more, resulting in a vortex. It can move, twist, stretch, and interact in complex ways. These dancers bring a beautiful yet intimidating swirl of movement to the stage for a performance befitting its name in this collaboration work featuring Finnish choreographer Tero Saarinen.
in many levels we have this vortex. So there is this I think, eternal powers of male powers and female powers, and this yin and yang idea of forces, you know, and what they are creating together. And then there is this ancient and contemporary kind of handshake, which is also for me a vortex. Finland and Korea meeting its vortex.
It's been over 50 years since the National Dance Company of Korea has collaborated with the foreign choreographer. But Sarinen brings his unique dance philosophy of naturalism to the stage, harmonizing perfectly with the National Dance Company of Korea's roots in traditional dance. Most Western dances tend to aim for the sky. Sarinen maintains a low center of gravity, parallel to traditional Korean dance. The result is a unique blend of the contemporary, with evidence of Korea's traditions seen in the live music performed with traditional instruments on the stage, as well as the costumes inspired by elements of Korea's culture.
If we can make something that this will make a sound in the end, so that we put some kind of loudspeakers here in the dress, it should really make a noise. So that's why it's so thick. I wanted it to be out of the organza so that it's very transparent. So I think that in the end, here are the buttons, because he's going to have on the other side the fan, which is made out of the organza. So it's transparent and the light will come nicely through the material.
There are no boundaries on this stage, as this nature-inspired performance sweeps the grounds, bringing sounds and movements to life. It's an opportunity to show the adaptability of Korea's traditional culture, as these dancers transform history and modernity into this vortex on the stage.
It's very unique how it puts together the Western form of art of dance and Korea's traditional dance. It's a very unique one that I've personally never seen before. But I'd like to know what kind of a role the National Dance Company plays in Korea's overall dance culture.
So the National Dance Company of Korea is one of Korea's most renowned dance companies. They've been performing around since the early 60s, and so they've been around for quite a while. They are part of the National Theater of Korea. They're one of the resident members, and they do perform around the world, showing Korean dance to other cultures, but they are known for their roots in Korean traditional style dance, as well as their takes and interpretations on contemporary dance as well.
Right, so how do they represent Korea's traditional dance through their performances?
So the possibilities are almost endless with this. They get very creative, but they do really take the Korean traditional dance, and you can see it sometimes in their more traditional pieces with their hanboks and their uniform, their costumes, as well as their choreography, but they also do take interpretive stances towards this, and you can see aspects of Korean traditions in their choreography and their costumes as well. So they do take a very unique blend sometimes, or they take a more traditional approach.
So this vortex, the new performance, is one of the latter, where they put a contemporary with Korea's traditional dance as well.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Geunhye, for that very unique report, and we look forward to seeing you again tomorrow.
I'll see you then.
Good afternoon. Today we have different weather conditions over the nation, and here in the capital we're having a rather cool day due to the cloud cover and fog. Now, however, it truly feels like summer in the southern province today, where highs will reach up to 28 degrees. Now, but there is about 20-degree temperature differences between the mornings and nights, so make sure you are prepared for that. Now, for more details, let's shift over to our satellite map. Aside from the partly cloudy skies, we have the fine dust level levels are a bit elevated here in the capital as well as in Gangwon-do province, so make sure you wear a mask. Now going over to our temperature readings, Seoul tops out at 19 this afternoon. Meanwhile, the southern cities such as Gwangju and Busan will peak up to 24 and 23 degrees. Now moving over to other regions, Jeju Island peaks over at 20, while Mangkeumgang tops also at 20 degrees. Now, that's all for now. Michelle Park, and back to you, Geunhye.
Well, thank you, Michelle, for that. And that's all from me at this hour. I'm Moon Geunhye in Seoul. Check back with ARIRANG at 4 p.m. Korea time for Business Today.